When the tree was done, Bando had discovered that the sap was running in willow trees and the limbs were just right for slide whistles. He spent the evening making us trombones. We played them together. That word, together. Maybe that was the answer to the city. Matt said rather uncomfortably just before bedtime. There may be some photographers in these hills. Matt! I hardly protested. What did you write? It was Bando who pulled out the article. He read it, a few follow-ups, and comments from many other papers. Then he leaned back against his leaning tree as if he had come to be and puffed silently on his pipe. Let's face it, Thoreau, you can't live in America today and be quietly different. If you're going to be different, you are going to stand out, and people are going to hear about you. And in your case, if they hear about you, they will remove you to the city or move to you, and you won't be different anymore. A pause. Did the owls nest, Thoreau? I told him about the owls and how the young played around the hemlock, and then we went to bed, a little sad, all of us. Time was running out. Matt had to return to school, and Bando stayed on to help burn out another tree for another guest house. We chopped off the blackened wood, made one bed, and started the second before he had to return to his teaching. I wasn't alone long. Mr. Jacket found me. I was out on the raft trying to catch an enormous snapping turtle. It would take my line, but when I got its head above water, it would eye me with those cold, ancient eyes and let go. Frightful was nearby. I was making a noose to throw over the turtle's head the next time it surfaced when Frightful lit on my shoulder with a thud and hard grip. She was drawn up and tense, which in her language said people, so I wasn't surprised to hear a voice call from across the stream, "Hi, Daniel Boone. What are you doing?" There stood Mr. Jacket. "I'm trying to get this whale of a snapper," I said, in such an ordinary voice that it was dull. I went on with the noose making, and he called to me, "Hit it with a club." I still couldn't catch the old tiger, so I rafted to shore and got Mr. Jacket. About an hour later, we had the turtle, had it cleaned, and I knew that Mr. Jacket was Tom Sidler. "Come on up to the house," I said, and he came on up to the house, and it was just like after school on 3rd Avenue. He wanted to see everything, of course, and he did think it unusual, but he got over it in a hurry and settled down to helping me prepare the meat for turtle soup. He dug the onions for it while I got it boiling in a tin can. Turtle is as tough as rock and has to be boiled for hours before it gets tender. We flavored the soup with hickory salt and cut a lot of Solomon's seal tubers into it. Tom said it was too thin, and I thickened it with mashed up nuts. I had run out of acorn flour. I tried some orris root in it. Pretty fair. "Want to stay and eat it and spend the night?" I asked him, somewhere along the way. He said sure, but added he had better go home and tell his mother. It took him about 2 hours to get back, and the turtle was still tough, so we went out to the meadow to fly Frightful. She caught her own meal. We tied her to her perch and climbed in the gorge until almost dark. We ate turtle soup. Tom slept in the guest tree. I lay awake wondering what had happened. Everything seemed so every day. I liked Tom, and he liked me, and he came up often, almost every weekend. He told me about his bowling team and some of his friends, and I began to feel like I knew a lot of people in the town below the mountain. This made my wilderness small. When Tom left one weekend, I wrote this down. Tom said that he and Reed went to an empty house. and when they heard the real estate man come in, they slid down the laundry chute to the basement and crawled out the basement window. He said a water main broke and flooded the school grounds, and all the kids took off their shoes and played baseball in it. I drew a line through all this when I wrote. I haven't seen the Baron Weasel. I think he has deserted his den by the boulder. A catbird is nesting nearby. Apparently, it has learned that Frightful is tied some of the time because it comes right up to the fireplace for scraps when the leash is snapped. I drew a line through this too, and filled up the rest of the piece of bark with a drawing of Frightful. I went to the library the next day and took out 4 books. Aaron came back. He came right to the hemlock forest and called. I didn't even ask him how he knew I was there. He stayed a week, mostly puttering around with the willow whistles. He never asked what I was doing on the mountain. It was as if he already knew, as if he had talked to someone or read something, and there was nothing more to question. I had a feeling that I was an old story somewhere beyond the foot of the mountain. I didn't care. Bando got a car, and he came up more often. He never mentioned any more newspaper stories, and I never asked him. I just said to him one day, I seem to have an address now.